The morning was crisp, and the sun was just beginning to peek through the curtains when I sat down at the kitchen table, cradling my coffee in both hands. There was a comforting familiarity in the quiet, early hours of the day, a peaceful routine that I had come to rely on. As I sat there, sipping my coffee, I couldn't shake the thought that something felt off. It was a subtle feeling, a small gnawing in the pit of my stomach, but I brushed it aside, telling myself that I was just nervous about the upcoming days. Ryan was getting married. My only child, the boy I had loved and raised, was about to begin. A new chapter in his life, and I was going to be there, cheering him on. It was supposed to be a moment of joy. I pulled my phone out of my purse, intending to send him a quick text to remind him about the wedding details. I had been looking forward to this day for so long. Imagine walking into that church, seeing my son standing at the altar with his bride by his side. I had imagined the joy of seeing the two of them join together in front of family and friends. The way I'd smile and watch his every move as he said his vows. I couldn't wait. But then, as I scrolled through my phone, I saw a message pop up from Ryan. The sight of his name brought a smile to my face. I hadn't heard from him in a while, and I assumed this was a message about the wedding. I opened the text eagerly, expecting words of excitement or a last-minute check-in about details. Instead, I was met with something I never could have prepared for. Mom, I know this might be hard for you, but we've decided to keep the wedding small. It's just going to be a close circle of friends and family, and we're limiting it to that. I hope you understand. Megan's family wanted it this way, and it's important to us. I know it's tough, but I think this is best for us. I read those words over and over again, as if my mind was refusing to comprehend what I was seeing. I blinked, hoping that somehow the words would change, but they didn't. It was real. Ryan had made a decision that excluded me from one of the most significant events of his life. My son, my flesh and blood, was getting married, and I wasn't going to be there. The weight of the message hit me like a punch in the gut. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I sat there, frozen, staring at the screen as if the words would suddenly change, as if the phone itself would offer an explanation. But nothing came. Only the persistent buzzing of the text notification. I had been expecting so much more. I had dreamed of being a part of his big day, standing beside him as a mother should. I had imagined that we would share this moment, that I would watch my son step into a new phase of life, holding his hand in a way that only a mother can. But now, none of that seemed possible. I felt the tears welling up in my eyes, but I wiped them away quickly. I couldn't afford to cry, not yet. Not over something like this. But the heartache was undeniable, spreading through me like wildfire. I thought back to all the sacrifices I had made for him, the late nights working, the meals I had prepared, the way I had always put his needs before my own, the years I had spent building a life for him, one that would give him every opportunity to thrive. I thought of the countless hours I had spent helping him with homework, listening to him talk about his dreams, encouraging him to reach for the stars. And yet, none of that seemed to matter now. I was being cast aside, pushed to the edges of his life. It didn't make sense. Why would Ryan exclude me from such a pivotal moment? What had I done wrong? I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Maybe he had miscommunicated the situation. After all, this was his wedding, and weddings are stressful, right? Maybe the guest list was just being trimmed down because of budget constraints, or because of space. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. The text had been too clear. Megan's family wanted a small, intimate gathering. That's all it took. It didn't matter that I was his mother. I tried calling him. I needed to hear his voice, to understand why this was happening. But as I dialed his number, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread. What would I say to him? How would I even begin to explain how much this hurt? The phone rang a few times before going to voicemail. I tried again, and once again I was met with the same silence. No answer. The silence between us was deafening, and it hurt more than I ever thought possible. For the past few weeks, Ryan had been distant. He had been so wrapped up in wedding preparations and in his new life with Megan that I had barely seen him. When I did get to speak with him, it felt like I was talking to someone else, a stranger. He was no longer the son who would call me just to check in, to talk about his day, or ask for advice. No, now he was a man with his own world, and that world didn't seem to have much room for me. I thought of his fiancée, Megan. From the very first time I had met her, I had tried to make an effort to be kind. I wanted her to feel welcome in our family, to feel loved, because I wanted Ryan to be happy. But something about her always made me uneasy. She was polite, yes, but there was a coldness in the way she looked at me, as if she was sizing me up, deciding if I was a threat to her. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe I was just feeling protective of my son. But the more I saw her, the more I felt like she was subtly pushing me out of Ryan's life. I had hoped that time would ease the tension, that we would become closer as a family. But instead, it seemed like she had woven herself into his life in a way that made me irrelevant. And now, here I was, excluded from his wedding. A mother who had been by his side through everything, now shut out, as if I no longer mattered. It didn't make sense. I stared at the phone screen for what felt like hours, the words still burning into my mind. I hope you understand. How could I understand? How could I accept that my son, the boy I had loved and raised, the boy who had once been my everything, no longer needed me? I wanted to scream, to ask him why, to demand an explanation. But I COULDN single quotes T dot instead. I texted him back, my hands shaking as I typed the words. Ryan, I don't understand. I'm your mother. How could you do this? I've been there for you. Through everything. This wedding is a moment for us to share. And now I'm being left out. I don't know what happened between us, but I don't think I can just understand. I need to talk to you. I hit send, but I already knew it wouldn't change anything. I didn't know when I would hear from him again, or if I ever would. The minutes ticked by, and the weight of the message lingered in the air, heavy and oppressive. As the day wore on, I tried to distract myself, but nothing could erase the pain of feeling abandoned. My son was getting married, and I wasn't invited. This moment, this crushing revelation, would mark the beginning of a painful journey that neither Ryan nor I could have anticipated. It would take more time than I was willing to admit for us to come to terms with the choices he had made, and the way we had both lost our way. But for now, all I could do was wait and wonder if my son would ever come back to me. The hours dragged on after I sent that text. Each minute felt like an eternity, as I sat in my kitchen, the once comforting warmth of the morning now replaced by an unsettling chill. The silence in the house was overwhelming, filling every corner, every room. It was the kind of silence that settles over you when something important has shifted, something irreparable, and you don't quite know how to fix it. I couldn't shake the weight of the message I had received. My heart felt heavy in my chest, like it was sinking further into an abyss I didn't want to acknowledge. I had tried to understand it, tried to make sense of why Ryan would do something like this to me. That nothing seemed to make sense. My mind kept circling back to Megan. The thought of her like a shadow hovering over everything, always just out of reach, yet undeniably present. Ryan and I had been so close, and now, here I was excluded, forgotten. The most important day of his life, and I wasn't going to be there to see it. I hadn't been invited to his wedding, and I didn't even know why. I had spent years supporting him, loving him, doing everything I could to help him grow into the man he was. But in the blink of an eye, I was no longer a part of that picture. I stood up from the table, needing to do something, anything, to shake off the suffocating feeling. I decided to step outside. The fresh air might clear my head, I thought. As I stepped onto the porch, the cool breeze brushed against my face, but it did little to ease the storm inside me. I sat down on the porch swing, trying to take slow, steady breaths. The familiar sound of the creaking swing filled the space around me, but it didn't soothe me the way it used to. Every memory seemed tainted now, every holiday spent together, every family meal, every moment when I thought that we would always have each other. I had raised Ryan with so much love. I had worked so hard, given so much of myself to him, that the thought of not being part of his wedding felt like a betrayal, though. I didn't know who was betraying whom. He had made a choice that excluded me, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I couldn't even get him to talk to me. Every call I made went unanswered, and every text felt like I was speaking into a void. And then, just as I sat there, lost in my thoughts, I heard a soft knock on the door. At first, I thought it was a trick of my mind. I was so consumed by everything that had happened that I wasn't sure I was hearing things correctly. But then, the knock came again, this time a little more insistent. My heart skipped a beat. Could it be Ryan? Was it really him? I stood up from the swing and walked toward the door, my hands shaking as I reached for the handle. When I opened the door, there he was. Ryan. He was standing on the porch, looking like a shell of the person I had last seen. His suit was rumpled, his tie askew, and his eyes were red, swollen from crying. He looked broken, completely undone. His face was pale, and the usual confidence he carried with him seemed to have evaporated, replaced by a deep sadness that I hadn't seen in years. For a moment, neither of us said anything. We just stood there, facing each other, both of us trying to make sense of what had happened. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. How could I speak? How could I look at my son and pretend that everything was okay, when the world around me felt like it was falling apart? Finally, Ryan broke the silence, his voice thick with emotion. Mum, I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done this to you. I never wanted to hurt you. I just ... I didn't know how to tell you. Megan, she wanted it to be a small wedding. Her family felt like they wanted to keep things just to themselves, and I didn't know how to tell you. I thought it would be easier this way. I could barely process his words. The pain was too much. Ryan, I whispered, my voice trembling, you're my son. I've been there for you every step of the way. All the moments in your life, your first day of school, your graduation, your struggles, your victories, I was there. How could you shut me out when it came to the most important day of your life? Ryan's face crumpled and tears started to spill from his eyes. I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant to. I've been so caught up in all the planning, in all the pressure from Megan's family, that I didn't stop to think about how this would affect you. I was wrong. I didn't even realize how much I had hurt you until now. I reached out and took his hands in mine, pulling him closer. Ryan, you have to understand. I've always been here for you. I've spent my whole life trying to make sure you had everything you needed. I wanted to be there for you, to share this day with you. But now you've shut me out, and I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how we got here. Ryan buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking as he sobbed. I don't know, Mom. I just don't know. I thought it would be easier to keep things small, but now I realize how wrong I was. I'm so sorry. I've messed everything up. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I pulled him into a tight hug, holding him as he cried. The weight of everything, of the hurt, of the distance between us, of the years that had passed, seemed to pour out of him in that moment. It was raw. It was real. And for a brief second, I felt a flicker of the boy I had raised. The boy who had needed me. The boy who had promised he would never leave me behind. It's not about deserving forgiveness, Ryan, I whispered, my own tears falling. It's about love. I love you. And no matter what happens, no matter how much time passes, I will always love you. I will always be here for you. But you have to understand, you can't just push me away. I'm your mother. I'm part of your life, and I always will be. Ryan clung to me, his body trembling with emotion. I didn't realize how much I needed you. I thought I could do this on my own, but I was wrong. You've always been there for me, and I haven't been there for you. I'm so sorry. In that moment, I knew that this wasn't the end. It wasn't the end of our relationship, even though it felt like a betrayal. It was the beginning of something new, a chance for us to rebuild, to repair the damage we had done, and to learn how to love each other again, not just in the easy moments, but in the difficult ones too. I'm here, Ryan, I said softly, pulling back just enough to look him in the eyes. And I always will be. We'll get through this together, okay? He nodded, his tears still falling, but this time there was a sense of relief in his expression. The weight on his shoulders seemed to lift just a little. He wasn't alone anymore, and neither was I. We stood there for a while, just holding each other, the world around us silent, as if waiting for us to find our way back. There was still so much to work through, so much healing to be done, but in that moment, I knew that we were taking the first steps toward forgiveness, toward mending the bond that had almost been lost. The wedding was still to come, and I wasn't sure how it would unfold, but I knew one thing for sure. Ryan and I would never be the same, but we would find our way back to each other. We had to, because love, no matter how wounded, always finds a way to heal. The weeks after Ryan's visit to my porch were some of the most difficult and raw I had ever experienced. There were moments when I couldn't breathe for the weight of the pain I felt. But there was also something else, something I hadn't expected. Hope. That maybe, just maybe, there was a way to rebuild the bond we had lost. We both knew it wasn't going to be easy. Ryan's hurt, my hurt, they were real and they ran deep. For so long, I had poured everything I had into him. I had been there for him when his father passed, when he had his first heartbreak, when he started his first job, and through all the highs and lows in between. And then, just like that, I had been cast aside. But now, standing on the porch that night, holding him in my arms, I knew that we could heal. It wouldn't happen overnight, but it had to start somewhere. Ryan began to call me more often. At first, it was awkward. Our conversations felt like they were filled with unsaid words, like there was so much to unpack, but not enough space or time to do it all. I could tell he was struggling with guilt, and in some ways I was too. There was a part of me that still felt angry that he had let himself be swept up in what everyone else wanted. Angry that he had allowed someone else's desires to dictate his relationship with me. But I also understood the pressure of starting a new life, trying to make everyone happy, especially when he was trying to please Megan and her family. It was a heavy burden. I had been in that position before when I tried to balance my own career with motherhood, when I tried to be everything for everyone. But it wasn't just about the wedding anymore. It was about us, our relationship, the years we had together, and the years we had lost. One Saturday afternoon, I invited Ryan. over to spend some time with me. I suggested a quiet lunch, something simple. He hesitated at first, but I could see the relief in his eyes when he agreed. Maybe he had been afraid that I would shut him out, or maybe he was just unsure of how to start the healing process. But I didn't want to rush things. I didn't need to rush it. The most important thing was that we were trying. We were both trying to fix what had been broken. He arrived with a bouquet of flowers in hand, a small gesture that brought tears to my eyes. "I thought this would help," he said, holding them out with an unsure smile. "I know it's not enough, but I thought it was a good place to start." I took the flowers from him and pulled him into a hug. "Thank you, Ryan. That's enough. You being here is enough." We spent the afternoon in the kitchen, preparing lunch together. For the first time in a long time, it felt natural, the way we moved around each other, comfortable and familiar. There was no pressure to fix everything in a single moment. We talked about everything and nothing. At first, we stuck to safe topics: the weather, work, things that didn't carry the weight of our emotions. But gradually, the conversation shifted. "Mum," Ryan said, his voice soft, almost hesitant, "I've been thinking a lot about what happened with the wedding, and I know I messed up. I let everyone else's expectations guide me, and in doing that, I hurt you. I didn't see how much I was pushing you away. I was so focused on making Megan happy, on making everyone else happy, that I lost sight of what really mattered." I set the knife down and looked at him, my heart swelling with emotion. "Ryan, you didn't just hurt me by not inviting me to your wedding. It was everything that led up to that. Everything that made you feel like you had to choose between. I know you love Megan, and I want you to be happy with her, but I never expected you to leave me behind in the process." His eyes welled up with tears and he nodded, wiping them away quickly. "I never wanted to leave you behind, Mom. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought keeping the wedding small would make everything easier. But I realized now that it was a mistake. I should have included you. I should have made sure you knew how important you were to me. I didn't see how much I was hurting you until it was too late." There was a silence between us, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that comes after two people finally say the things they've been holding inside. "Ryan," I said, my voice thick with emotion, "I spent my whole life supporting you, raising you, making sure you had everything you needed. But somewhere along the way, I forgot to make sure that I was included in your life too. I let my need to take care of you overshadow everything else. I didn't realize how much I was pushing you away. I wanted you to be independent, but I didn't give you the space to make your own decisions. I didn't give you the space to grow into the man you were meant to be, with your own choices, your own life. And I'm sorry for that. I didn't. No, I was doing it." Ryan looked at me, his expression softening. "Mum, you've always been there for me. Always. But I never saw how much I was pulling away from you. And that's my fault. I know I can't fix everything right now, but I want to try. I want to find our way back to each other. I don't want to let this come between us anymore." I smiled through my tears, reaching out to take his hand. "I'm willing to try too. I'm not perfect, Ryan, but I love you, and we'll figure this out together." Over the next few months, we continued to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't always easy. There were times when old wounds would surface, and we'd have to work through them. But we didn't give up on each other. We worked through the hurt, one conversation at a time. Slowly, Ryan started opening up to me more. He would call me just to talk, just to check in, and I started to feel like I was a part of his life again. It wasn't the same as it had been before, but it was something. It was progress. And one evening, as we sat on the porch together, watching the sunset and talking about the future, Ryan looked over at me and said, "I'm glad we're doing this." Mum, I didn't realize how much I needed you until now. You're always going to be my mom, no matter what. And I want you to know that. I'm sorry for the way I treated you. I never meant to hurt you. I squeezed his hand, feeling a sense of peace settle in my chest. I know, Ryan. I know. And I'm just happy you're here. That's all I've ever wanted, to be part of your life. And I always will be. It wasn't perfect, and it didn't erase the pain of that day. But in that moment, I knew that we were on the path to healing. And that was enough. The wedding had come and gone, and Ryan and Megan had started their life together. But in the end, it wasn't about the wedding. It wasn't about the people who were there, or the people who weren't. What mattered was the love we had for each other, and the commitment we made to not let anything tear us apart again. And so, I sat there with my son, watching the sunset on the horizon, knowing that we had taken the first steps toward forgiveness, toward rebuilding what had almost been lost. We weren't perfect, but we were family, and that was enough.